Welcome on in, everybody. Week 4 of the Warchant Report, powered by Cummins. I'm Aslan Hunjavandy, joined by wildly popular radio host Jeff Cameron, as well as senior writer for Warchant.com, Corey Clark. Thanks for being here. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to Warchant.com. If you've never done so, first-time subscribers can take advantage of this limited-time offer, 50% off an annual membership. I don't know how we pay for this talent, everybody. Jeff and Corey, 50% off. I don't know how the math works out, but somehow it does, at least for this week. So they're here hanging out. Take advantage of it while you can. Again, it is the Warchant Report powered by Cummins. Check them out over at shop.cummins.com. That promo code is TAILGATE, TAILG, numeral 8. Take advantage of their power stations, their portable generators, their RV generators. It's all there over on the website. Check them out. Noles working high up there on the corporate ladder, taking advantage of our reach. So check them out, shop.cummins.com. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Another big game for Florida State to get the season to September wrapped up. They start off with LSU. They'll end in Death Valley, the other Death Valley perhaps, against those other Tigers. Clemson, the reigning ACC champions. That game, noon. It will be on ABC and possibly could end any sort of hopes of Clemson wanting to repeat as ACC champions if they were to fall to Florida State, who comes to the game ranked third in the coaches poll, fourth in the AP. Meanwhile, Clemson not ranked by the writers, and I think 23rd in the coaches poll. Want to start this one off here with the quarterback position. Obviously, Florida State's got the edge on this one, Jeff. Seemingly anybody they're going to play against, they'll have the edge on this one. But what do you think the goal is going to be for Jordan Travis in this game? He's defeated Florida. He's defeated Miami. The one thing, maybe the one pelt that's not on his board right now is beating Clemson. Does he need to be, as he described, the guy who distributes the ball well, or does he need to be a playmaker? Or can those two things coexist, do you think, Jeff?
I think they can coexist, but oddly, I think he just needs to distribute the football. This is the best amount of talent he's had surrounding him since he's been here. You've got playmakers everywhere. You got guys that are going to be playing in the league at wide receiver, at tight end, at the running back position. You have an offensive line that can protect him. That doesn't mean I don't think they shouldn't call his number on occasion. Jordan Travis, I think, does need to run the ball when given the opportunity, and I think they got to get his legs involved to help open up the running game as well. But Aslan, I think really this is about taking less of those 50-50 shots down the field and a little bit more about what's open and underneath and to be patient. I can imagine it's very difficult to do that when you have a Keon Coleman, when you have a Jaheim Bell streaking down the seam, when you have a 6'7" Johnny Wilson amongst a host of other really good athletes. But the bottom line is I think they can be much more efficient if he just takes what's around him, what's given to him from the defense. Somebody's going to be open. I would just look for him to distribute the football. Excuse me.
Corey, he said that this offense is a first read offense, or whatever's open, you throw to within the progression. Do you think he's forced it trying to get the big plays, or do you see Jordan maybe being miscast for his performances of late?
I definitely thought he did against Southern Miss. Now, I know that nobody here is lamenting the 66-13 win, but in that game, there were a lot of just throw it up. My guy's better than your guy. Go make plays. Didn't happen a ton in the Boston College game. The one pass that everybody harps on, which with good reason, because it was the state where the game was at the time, was the throw to Johnny Wilson down the sideline, because he was not open and somebody was open right in front of him. On third down, keep the chains moving, man. You can go make a big play later on in the drive, but you've got to keep the chains moving. But he only threw 24 passes in that game. He completed whatever it was, 16. Keon didn't drop. Sorry, Keon did not catch the couple of balls that were thrown his way. I would like to see, I think throwing it up to Johnny, throwing it up to Keon is great on 3rd and 13. Right? You don't have a lot of plays in your playbook for 3rd and 13. That's a get out of jail free card. Both those guys, like 3rd and 13, run them down the sideline. But I don't like it on 3rd and 3. 3rd and 3, you can do it and you can run for it. I think Jordan's been good. I think he is good. But yeah, I would like to see somehow, some way, and this isn't always on the quarterback. Destin Hill can play, man. I think Destin Hill's a very good college football player. He has one catch this year, and Tate Rodemaker threw it to him when they're up by 50 points. I think you've got to somehow get the slot guys involved. But then again, is Jaheim Bell a slot guy? Kind of. And they get him involved at times. So it doesn't seem like they as well as the offense has played throughout this season, save for those 4 drives at the end of the Boston College game. You'd like to see what it looks like with Jaheim, Johnny, and Keon are all on the same page, are all playing well. LSU's the closest you got, and they destroyed LSU in the second half. So let's see that again, because Johnny wasn't any good against Southern Miss. Keon wasn't any good against Boston College. Let them both be good this weekend and see what happens.
Jeff, the fact that Jordan kind of brought that up in his post-practice interview, I mean, do you think that's something that either he's maybe read or been made aware of, I don't know, like through social media, or do you think that's something that maybe the coaches brought up to him in terms of just distribute the ball, like we're getting things schemed open for you, just make those plays, the simple one?
Oh, I think it's coaches. I don't think it has anything to do with social media. Mike Norvell was very angry after the Boston College game, and I think he was still angry when we saw him on Monday in the press conference. I think Mike was mad at himself. I think he was a little frustrated with his players. Might have been mad at a couple of coaches. I think he left that game with a bad taste in his mouth because he knows there's so much better than that. And when they're so much better than that is when they take what other teams are giving them because they have an answer for all of those questions that are being asked by a defense. There's not really a way to stop this offense if you go to the open man, which is always going to be somebody against a team that cannot guard the plethora of weapons that Florida State has. And Jordan, I think maybe he sensed that maybe Jordan was pressing a little bit too much. You got strong personalities. You got elite players who want to play in the NFL. You got guys who want the ball, and they're not afraid to tell you they want the ball. They might even go on Twitter. So, these are the things that can happen. But you got to calm him down if you're a coach and say, look, you're the man. You're the rock star. You're the maestro. You're the guy that runs this thing. I'm calling plays that are going to get somebody open. Be patient. Make those throws. The big plays will come later. Everything sets something else up. We'll get those big plays for those guys, but not if you don't take what's there early.
And don't you think, Jeff, in that second half, again, that's kind of what we're talking about. Because as we've talked about, there have been some rough stretches for the offense, rough in quotes, but they've been scoring very, very well. He was not going to run the ball in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And there were alleys to run the ball. And I think in a normal Jordan Travis feeling good about his body, when things start to go awry and you've given up a lead and you're only up by 12 or 6, there's a couple of plays there where he's so special running the ball that, okay, that's a 12-yard gain. Let's reset it. Now we'll get the offense moving. And that option wasn't there at the end of that game in Boston. I'm of the opinion it almost has to be there. And I love the way Jordan progresses. I love the way he is in the pocket now. But I think that has to be there on Saturday. He has to be able to make some plays with his legs, like you said, just to open up other things.
Agreed, Corey. And I think they got to call it for him too early.
Yes, correct.
Call it for him early and let him get involved with his legs. Now you've presented that to the defense. It changes the way they have to play you.
Let's move over to defense now. That was pretty gross. I guess we could probably agree on for 60 minutes. It was something that we just haven't seen over the last, 10 games with Florida State. They're on that winning streak of theirs. Maybe they're bend, maybe they don't break ultimately. Yeah. But the amount of busts, Jeff, that were apparent there for Florida State, can that be something that can be addressed and fixed? If it is fixed, is that maybe the biggest indicator of growth and regaining that sort of edge that Mike Norvell talked about immediately after the game against Boston College and after practice on Wednesday?
Mike talked about the edge, and I get why a coach would say that because I do think to some extent they let their guard down up 31-10, but I think it's less about the edge than it is about guys being where they're supposed to be. And this is a big question mark going into Clemson. I can't say that I know the answer to this because you're asking Kevin Noles and others to fill a different role than they've had to fill in the past and to play a more important role within the scheme. And if they don't know what to do, you wonder, will they know what to do in the next game when the lights are on and the contest is a much better set of competitors in the form of Clemson? That Riley, the offensive coordinator, is going to try to expose that or at least test that early on. He'll do it with misdirection. He'll do it with motion. He's going to send guys. They're going to flood guys to the middle of the field to see if Florida State knows their assignments. Florida State may know their assignments. They may fix it this week. It may be something that was easily correctable. I'm not in the film room with them, so I don't know. But obviously, by virtue of those busts you just alluded to and the amount of conversions on explosive plays on 3rd and 4th down, that is a real problem that we need answers to. And I don't think we'll really know until we get to this Clemson game because I think that will get tested. Obviously, Clemson has a quarterback in Klubnik and some athletes at wide receiver that are going to test that discipline and that knowledge.
Corey, what's your confidence level that they're going to be able to address those busts?
Oh, average. Look, the thing about Adam Fuller, I think somebody asked Jeff and I on Seminole Headlines about this. Like, what does he do well? I do think he's shown a propensity when things start off horribly, at least the last year and a half. They do get fixed. Like Boston College did go after they looked so bad, the Florida State defense to start that game. They did get 5 straight stops, and Florida State took control of the game. And then they had them in 3rd and 17, and then the doors fell off. But they did a good job there in the middle of the game of taking control and fixing what their issues were. But then they reared their ugly head late. What was so bizarre about that game, Jeff and Aslan, is that starting really with, I don't know, man, the North Carolina game or the Syracuse game in 2021, so 25 games ago, the defense has done a pretty remarkable job of not having huge busts. They give up plays, especially in 21, because they weren't as talented as some teams. But they kept most things in front of them. And even in the LSU game, they had the bust on the first play of the season for 50 yards that if Renardo Green doesn't make a Herculean effort, it's a touchdown on the first play of the season. That's a little concerning to me that it's happening like this. But I just have confidence that maybe they're not going to be incredibly coached. They're not going to be they're not going to look like Kirby Smart's defense 2 years ago. But I do think they'll get this out of their system. They're just too experienced. A lot of these guys. Now, Jeff's right about Noles. Like, Noles is a guy that's playing a new position. Nobody else is. So you would think eventually you get this worked out. And was this a one-game aberration? Because they've given up 12 pass plays this year of 20 yards or more. 6 came in that game. So before that, they were doing, LSU had 3, Southern Miss had 3, 2 of them were LSU's had a 75-yarder against freshmen late. So I think it can be rectified, but I don't have confidence that they won't give up a huge wide open pass early in the game, because that seems to be maybe in the DNA of this team right now. Hope I'm wrong, though. Hope I'm wrong.
Let's look further into the matchup with Clemson. Will it be one in the trenches? How do things stack up for the Noles when it comes to playing big boy football against a team like Clemson? We'll talk about that next, coming up right here on the Warchant Report, powered by Cummins. You can feel the security of having a global power leader in your own backyard when you're backed up by a Cummins home generator. For more than 100 years, Cummins has powered everything from heavy-duty trucks to trains and dependable power generation to hospitals, data centers, and stadiums around the world. Now you and your family can rely on that same expertise to get the latest in power technology with a Cummins home generator for your home. Be prepared for bad weather, rolling outages, ice storms, and more. And whether it's Wi-Fi or weeks worth of groceries in your fridge and freezer, stay powered up with a Cummins home generator. Visit homegenerators.cummins.com to utilize their home generator size calculator to find the ideal generator to power your home or to request an on-site assessment. And don't forget, you can save 10% off various models of portable power stations, portable generators, and RV generators at shop.cummins.com with the promo code TAILGATE, TAILG, numeral 8. Welcome back into the Warchant Report, powered by Cummins. Again, shop.cummins.com. Use that promo code TAILGATE, TAILG, numeral 8. What do NFL stadiums, Energy Stadium, US Bank Stadium, AT&T Stadium, that's Jerry's World, as well as State Farm Stadium in Arizona have in common? If things go out there, they trust on Cummins to be the backup power source at their stadium. So that's what we trust here over the Warchant Report to keep us going in case things fail. We're always ready to go with the PS1000. Check it out, shop.cummins.com. Use that promo code TAILGATE. Matt LaSerre, our writer, also covers a lot of recruiting. Caught up with Matt Connolly of On3 to talk about the Clemson program, where it's been, where it seems like they're going, and if they can bounce back in their biggest game of the year against Florida State on Saturday.
So we all know that this offense starts off with Klubnik and Will Shipley in the backfield. But what do they have to do in this game for a Clemson win? And then what other pieces have to contribute on a high level?
Yeah, I think it starts with Klubnik for sure. He's a guy who has played okay at times this year. Hasn't been great, to be honest. He's a guy that has struggled at times in his career when he's been pressured. He, has had some costly turnovers, whether it be at the goal line against Duke on the zone read stuff, or he threw a really bad pick six against Charleston Southern that led to a game that was way closer than it should have been at the half. So he's had some bad moments this year. He's puts the ball in jeopardy at times. So I think if you're Clemson, you really want him taking care of the football, and if you're Florida State, you're trying to bring pressure to him and make him uncomfortable. Will Shipley is obviously a really talented running back. Phil Moffitt is as well. I think they'll lean on that running game a lot and try to establish the run. But yeah, outside of those guys, Tyler Brown and Antonio Williams at receiver are a couple guys to watch out for. Antonio's back. He led the team last year in receiving. And Tyler Brown came in as a freshman this year and has really been a nice contributor for them right away. So those are a couple guys at receiver. Adam Randall, too, is another receiver who is a sophomore they're excited about. He just hasn't kind of put it all together yet the way they were kind of hoping. But he's another guy that has talent, and they'll need him to make some plays Saturday.
Clemson also brought in new offensive coordinator Garrett Riley this offseason, brother of USC coach Lincoln Riley. It was one of the biggest assistant hires of the offseason, but it doesn't seem like there's been a whole lot of change to this offense. It seems like they've been saving a lot.
I think ideally they would have loved to have saved even more, but when you're losing to Duke in the second half and in trouble and trying to fight for your life, I do think they probably showed more than they would have liked to in that game, and still didn't come out with a win, which I know was tough for them. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just he's doing a really good job of scheming guys open more than maybe Brandon Streeter did. Whereas, they aren't having to make as many contested catches with guys all over them. He's doing a nice job of kind of finding some holes in the defense and getting some guys open and letting them go get the ball in their hands and make plays. So, I think it's the air raid offense in some ways, but they still run the ball a ton and really rely on that running game. But I think more than anything, what you notice is just scheming some guys open more. Now, Cade hasn't always hit them. He hasn't been great this year, to be honest, and kind of finding guys and he'll have somebody open and doesn't necessarily see them or hesitates for whatever reason at times. That pick six I mentioned against Charleston Southern, he had 3 or 4 receivers open on that play and kind of just held the ball and backpedaled and threw a pick six. So he hasn't always done a great job at finding them, but they do have more guys open, I think, this year than they have in the past.
Now heading over to the defense, this linebacking core seems like one of the best in the country. This secondary seems very experienced. What pieces need to step up on Saturday for Clemson to get this win over Florida State?
Yeah, the linebackers are really good for sure. Barrett Carter, Wade Woodaz, who doesn't get talked about as much, but he's really good too. And then Jeremiah Trotter Jr., obviously another really good linebacker. So they definitely feel good about their linebackers up front. They have a lot of talent too with Ruka Loro, Tyler Davis, Peter Woods, who came in as a freshman and is playing really well. The ends are kind of, I don't want to say a weakness necessarily. Like they're talented guys that have played a lot of football, but they haven't made a ton of plays yet this year. Xavier Thomas is a former 5-star recruit who's been on campus since 2018 and has dealt with some injuries and is now healthy and playing well. But outside of him, it's Justin Maskell, who's another older guy who he's been a solid contributor, but not someone I would say that really scares you as a pass rusher. And behind those guys are freshmen that they're playing. So some inexperience there. And then in the secondary, it's an experienced group, but I think they're going to have some trouble with Florida State receivers. With that size and physicality, I think will be tough for Clemson because they have Sheridan Jones, who's a smaller cornerback. They have some bigger guys, but they're younger players who haven't played a ton and have had some ups and downs. So I think that I would give the Florida State receivers the edge there, but there are some experienced guys who played a lot of football, just not necessarily the lockdown guys that you would hope to have when you're going up against Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman and the receivers.
Okay, then, gentlemen, looking out Florida State and how they're going to match up ultimately on Saturday when they play Clemson in this game at noon on ABC. Start with you, Corey. This offensive line of Florida State, we can't go into specifics on their health status, but they are compromised, and we saw that last week. If they're not able to maybe get fully back to where they were when it comes to the LSU game, are you more concerned about them being able to hold up and create running lanes so this running game gets back on track, or will it ultimately be about holding that front four of Clemson's at bay to give Jordan the amount of time he needs to get the passing game clicking early and often?
How about both, Aslan? Can I say both? I want him to run block well and pass block well. That's what. But which one's the? Well, look, I guess I could take the easy way out and say, well, look, even if they don't hold up great in pass pro, Jordan Travis is still hard to tackle, even if you beat the guy that's trying to block you. So I feel like if they could exert their will in the running game and open up holes, that just makes everything so much easier, man. You get the safeties to cheat up, you get the linebackers to cheat up. Then you have these NFL wide receivers that you can throw to and take shots with. So I guess if I had to choose, I would say that I would want them to be able to run block better. And look, I didn't think they were horrible against Boston College at all. I thought that the running backs, one in particular, I don't think ran like he needs to run. And I hope he does this week because this is a very big game for the team, obviously, but also for him. It'd be a good bounce back for Trey Benson. And I do think the line, man, it's a nice luxury to have when a couple of guys go down. Maybe they play, maybe they don't. We don't know their status officially, but that I know Norvell said that a couple of them would be game time decisions. But even if you lose a couple of guys, well, you've got a guy that started 35 games as a backup. That's a nice luxury to have, and they got a couple of those guys just in case.
I guess let's savor that for a quick second, though, right, Jeff? The fact that they are compromised, but they're able to still go out there and be effective against a team like Boston College. But do you want to see some bigger lanes for, I guess, Trey to be able to expose, or will it be important to keep Jordan upright and healthy maybe those first few series so any sort of thing he has in his mind about his other non-throwing arm will be out of the way?
Well, we know they want to run the ball. That's Mike's identity. He wants to run counter, and then they run all those RPO things off the counter. And Dabo Swinney talked about that this week. He's exactly right. Then they start working in those slip screens, and now we've got you on your heels, and you see Mike get into a rhythm. But if they don't run the ball, it's tough to get into that rhythm. I actually think it's weirdly an identity crisis right now for this team because they're not winning first down in the run game, and that's something they did really well last year. And then from there, you're able to kind of really keep defenses off balance. So I'm really intrigued what they do this week. There's no law that says you can't just decide, you know what, maybe we should spread it out and just be a team that passes the ball because you know what they do? They pass protect quite well. They pass protect very well. I think they got guys at both tackles that can pass protect, and I don't care what that group of five is that they start. They do a good job there. They've been average to slightly above average run blocking. At some point, you could just decide that we're a team that's going to pass to set up the run. That's
Jeff,
exactly
on that topic, and I was going to say I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do because I just did. I meant to interrupt you. Interruption intended.
Well, the point was so compelling you had to.
Exactly. It was so compelling I couldn't keep it in anymore.
Yeah, I understand.
But I was going to say, like, Mike Norvell, his identity is running the ball. We know that. That's what he wants to do. He's never had a Jordan Travis, and he's never had a group of wide receivers and tight ends quite like this. So I like that you said that because if the running game gets off to a slow start against Clemson, I've been joking with Aslan all week on Wake Up Warchant. I almost want to see like a run and shoot, go quick, Charlie Ward it up, just dink and dunk all the way down the field. Use your quarterback because he can be an electrifying, game-changing player.
Yes.
Put the ball in his hands even more and use those receivers even more.
Well, it's pivotal too, Corey, that in order to play with tempo, and I think they should play fast, you have to win first down.
Well, that could be an 8-yard pass. That could be an 8-yard pass.
And they haven't been winning on first down,
right.
And so they haven't been able to play with a great tempo. I think it's out there. It could be something we see Saturday. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, obviously they're going to start because they want to run the ball. And they're going to see if they can. You know, they ran the ball against Clemson last year, and that seemed to be against the odds. But they were able to run the ball last year.
Over 200 yards last year.
So if they are able to run the ball, then he won't have to worry about it. But they do have the luxury and the option to play, kind of spread it out and let their quarterback run the tempo and go from there. They have dudes now. I mean, they can do that.
Corey, I try to ask questions that elicit a difficult either-or response out of you, so I'll try to do it again. Defensively, how do they need to deploy the resources they have? Florida State, is it key to shut down Will Shipley, Phil Maffa, or do they need to affect and rattle Cade Klubnik and get to him early? Will that be the most impactful way of affecting this game and the trajectory of it?
No, look, I think the run defense has been exceptional so far. It's been really good. Not against the quarterbacks, but against the running backs, it's been really good. Well, this is a whole different step up in competition, especially Shipley. You know, I was telling Aslan this, Jeff, on Wake Up Warchant. Shipley's the reason they won the last two games. Like, Shipley took over games in crucial moments and won the game. And so absolutely, if you can slow him down and put more weight on a kid making his fifth start at quarterback, put more weight on his shoulders, I think that's the recipe because Shipley is their security blanket. He's their comfort blanket. They give him the ball 25 times, assuming he's going to hit a couple of 50-yarders. And it's like Jimbo used to be with Dalvin sometimes.
Yeah.
Like that's what coaches do with great running backs. And he's won them 2 games in a row against you. So if you can slow him and his backup down, who's very good too, and keep it to, I don't know, man, just keep doing what you're doing and put them in 3rd and 11 and second, 2nd and 9s. Make this kid have to make some plays with his arm.
I'm glad you got the answer right, Corey. That's the correct answer.
Thank you. It's about
It
time.
is the correct
Thank you for not
answer.
interrupting me while I was answering it.
No, you got it 100% right. They got to stop the
Let's go.
running game. And from there, trust your corners. I mean, they really trusted their corners against LSU. You don't have to lay back here. This is not a dominating receiving corps for Clemson like they've had in the past. This isn't those guys. And they're a little ding there. For all the reasons you said and then some, I think Florida State's got to be dominant against the run like they've been in all 3 games this year. So dominate against the run and make that kid make difficult throws into tight windows and let your corners be aggressive on their receivers. Absolutely agree.
Yeah, Clemson also a little bit banged up on the offensive line, as you kind of referenced there, Jeff. They've been rotating guys in at tackle. So, Jared Verse, Patrick Payne, by all means, if you feel like adding
getting a
some
sack
stats,
this year.
Yeah, it's your I didn't mean to be like that. Only one thing left to do now on the program. You heard from us breaking this game down. Let's make some predictions. The entire staff of Warchant.com and the panel right here in front of you making their game picks right after this on the Warchant Report powered by Cummins.
Whether the power is out or you're out of pocket, be the hero with portable power from Cummins, a global power leader. Onan Power Stations, perfect for mobile lifestyles, small and compact. Cummins Onan Power Stations provide temporary, off-the-grid power. Use it to charge your mobile devices, power your TV for the tailgate, run a fan to cool the party, or light up the after-dark celebration. Cummins offers power stations from 100 to 1,000 watts. These can be very handy during those temporary thunderstorm power outages we often get in the southeast in the afternoons. Use the promo code TAILGATE, TAILG, numeral 8, for a 10% discount at shop.cummins.com.
Welcome back in. Warchant Report powered by Cummins. Shop.cummins.com. Promo code TAILGATE, TAILG, numeral 8. You can save 10% off different models of their power stations, portable generators, as well as their RV generator. So get involved. Power leader, Cummins. Shop.cummins.com. All right, before we make our picks, let's hear from Gene Williams, Irish O'Fell, Matt LaSerre, Tom Lang. Not in that order. Everybody over at Warchant.com, our staff, making their predictions. Clemson, Florida State.
Huge game this Saturday in Death Valley, noon kickoff. The big question I think Florida State fans have been asking themselves all week, was the Boston College game a one-off aberration, or was it a sign of things to come? I tend to believe it was an aberration. I think it was a look-ahead game. I think the team, there's some guys a little under the weather. I think some weird stuff happened in that game. I really think what we saw for most of that Southern Miss game and most of the LSU game is really what this team is, and I think they're going to come out firing in this one. I like the Noles in this one. The key to victory to me is to stop one guy from Clemson, because I don't think they can keep up with you scoring-wise. Will Shipley has been a nightmare for the Noles the last couple of years. He's averaged over 160 yards all-purpose in the last 2 meetings, so they need to really keep an eye on him and slow him down a little bit to keep them down. But I think Florida State will score enough points in this game. It's been 10 years since they've won up at Memorial Stadium. A lot of the players on the team were probably 10 years old, some of those freshmen, back in 2013. But I think the Noles take it 31-24. Noles continue to be undefeated, headed into the bye week.
Good news, guys. The streak is going to end. Florida State is going to beat Clemson this Saturday at Death Valley. It's going to be their first win in 8 tries against the Tigers, their first win at Death Valley since that 2013 beatdown from Jameis and the boys. I don't think it's going to be quite that dominant, but I do think Florida State's going to win. I think they're the better overall team. I think Clemson has taken a step back, and we know Clemson has taken a step back in terms of overall talent. I think Florida State's the better overall team, the more complete team, and they've got a veteran quarterback in Jordan Travis who's played in that stadium before and had made plays in that stadium before. I think Florida State's experience is gonna pay off in this game. I don't think they're gonna get rattled too much by the crowd noise. I do think it's gonna be a competitive game, a really good game, but I got Florida State winning at Clemson 34-28.
I've been sweating this one all week, trying to figure out what the hell Clemson is, because opening week at Duke, a lot of troubles inside the 5-yard line. How good is Duke really? But then something occurred to me. Florida State's offense is really good. And Florida State's offense is going to pave the way in this game, I think, on the ground. I'm not calling for a 40-burger, but I think it's going to be a very respectable effort that Nole fans are going to be pretty happy about. Here's my final. Florida State 38, Clemson 24. It's going to be a good Saturday afternoon around Tallahassee.
I picked Florida State to make the playoff before the year. I felt like they had the best team in the ACC. I was really high on Keon Coleman going into the year. Just watching him at Michigan State, he made a ton of plays. So I think him and Johnny Wilson will be a handful for Clemson. I think it's a veteran Florida State team that hasn't beaten Clemson, with a bunch of guys that are really motivated to go try and do that. So, I don't think this is necessarily the end of Clemson under Dabo, and they're gonna not make the playoff anymore or anything like that. But I do think that this is a year for Florida State. I think Florida State wins 34-24.
So I'm going to give Florida State a slight edge in this game. I do think they're the better team, but I just still think it's going to be close. I think Death Valley is going to be a great atmosphere, and Dabo is going to have the Tigers ready. I also think it's going to be little more of a defensive game, because obviously the new clock rules. I think both teams are going to try to establish the run early. And don't forget this Clemson secondary, other than at nickel, due to injuries, they are very experienced here. So I'm going to go Florida State 24, Clemson 21.
All right. Those guys made their picks. Now it's these gentlemen on the screen. Not so much me, but these other guys you want to hear from. Florida State taking on Clemson. It's been 7 times. The Clemson's been able to beat Florida State head-to-head here. Noon, ABC. Jeff Cameron, you'll be doing a pregame show with Tom Lang at 11 a.m. Set the table for us now if you could. How do you see this game shaking out when Florida State takes on Clemson?
Yeah, I hate this, buddy. I've had a hard time all week. Most of the time I have some conviction early in the week. It kind of guides my betting slip and my picks here, but I'm struggling this week. I do like Florida State to score here. I think they're going to go on the road and play good on offense. I think you're going to see Mike Norvell have something for Clemson's defense. I've just got some serious question marks about whether they can clean up that stuff in the secondary. So I'm going to take Florida State to win the game on the road 31-24.
I'd be happy with that. I think we'll be ecstatic with that. You had me nervous there for a second, Jeff. I was like having to brace myself here for a moment.
Yeah. Preseason, I took Clemson to win this game, but after having watched them and seen what we can be or what Florida State can be when they're good, be 31-24 Noles.
Corey, 31-24 sounds good. What do you got?
Yeah, I had it actually 31-23. Florida State. I did. I think that kid, their new kicker, might miss an extra point, but make a field goal. It's going to be a feel-good story. You do not want it to come down to a kick, because it sounds like a Disney story. And I mean a Clemson kick, or either one, really. I know you're shaking your head at the other idea, but this one too. Number one, because we've been asking too much about how well Ryan Fitzgerald's been kicking. But this kid, it was on his couch 2 weeks ago watching Clemson. Dabo didn't even know he's a student. Now he's their starting kicker against Florida State. So, of course, it feels like the Disney movie will happen and he kicks a 44-yarder to win the game. But I don't think it's going to come down to a field goal.
Thank you.
Florida State has beaten Clemson once in Death Valley in 22 years. I think they're about to make it twice because they don't score 30 points or more against Clemson. Hardly ever. But when they do, they almost always win, Jeff. Isn't that a weird stat that when you score more than 30, you typically win? And I think the offense is going to play well. They're not going to put up 50, but I think if you get to 31, I think 30 is the magic number. If you get there, you're winning this game. And I think Jordan Travis and then this offense not only has something to prove because of last week, but just has something to prove in life, in their football careers. Like, go on the road and win a game like this. And I just think the offense will play well. The defense will play well enough to come away with a one-possession win.
I'm way too reactionary. I think last week I said that Florida State's going to beat Miami and Clemson by 2 scores. So I will hold on to that by the slimmest of margins. I'll say 35-24 Florida State.
Okay.
Takes down Clemson. He can get his field goal. Maybe he'll make it like 24-21, but then Florida State will score 14 unanswered to win that game. So I'm going to go 35-24 Florida State to take down Clemson, get that streak snapped, and ultimately put Clemson way behind the 8 ball in terms of trying to defend their ACC championship. So looking forward to it. Any other game of interest out there, Jeff, that you'll be watching as we'll be in Clemson and you'll set the table for everybody else out there? The Pac-12, baby. Are you buying into the Pac-12 being back, Jeff?
Do you know that if you were to add Shedeur Sanders and his stats at Colorado to the Pac-12 numbers of quarterbacks, that those quarterbacks have thrown for 55 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions? Did you know
Why wouldn't
that?
you? Why wouldn't you
It's
add
still-
his stats?
Because
He's
they're
in the
leaving.
Pac-12.
They're leaving the
Oh,
Pac-12.
okay.
So is Caleb Williams, but I'm sure Caleb Williams is being factored into that.
Yeah, 55-2. I do buy their offenses. I love Penix. I love Williams. Yeah, I do. I love it. I that game is also interesting, by the way. The Washington State game. I'm fascinated. The Utah UCLA game fascinates me. Actually, on the Jeff Cameron show, Corey, we called this a park your ass Saturday. There are great games all day long, buddy.
It's awesome. It starts from noon and it ends at 8. Like the Ohio State Notre Dame's at like 7:30, right?
Yeah, so it's all
unfortunately,
day,
Aslan and I will be working.
Yeah.
We don't get to park our ass anywhere except at Death Valley and then in a car.
Well, it's a
I know
game.
you'll hold it
could
down
be
for
out of
me.
there into the bars in plenty of time.
Sure. I hope. Here's hoping. With a dub. And Colorado State, Oregon. Colorado and Oregon. It really is it's an interesting game, even if you take away all the other stuff, the extracurricular with the head coach of Colorado. I think that's an interesting game. I also think Oregon's going to win. Maybe
I think Oregon's going
comfortably.
to win decisively. Yes.
Yeah. But
All
that
right.
would be interesting to watch too.
Florida State's got a week off after this, but we're going to savor this game. Stay tuned with everything going on over at warchant.com. There's a third and Lang up. You got Henshaw's house. We got a matchup analysis. Jeff Cameron show rolling throughout the week. Corey and I will be live Thursday night at 6 o'clock. And then the pregame show with Tom and Jeff starts at 11 o'clock on Saturday, getting you ready for game day. Sign up if you haven't done so already. First-time members get a 50% off deal over at warchant.com for an entire year. And you get to also check out all the other message boards, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, Miami. It's great. Come join us. Be friends with us. For Jeff and Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you so much for watching the Warchant Report, powered by Cummins.